grace, streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise, while the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love. Teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every nation, lift our hearts to what may come. See the Lion and the Lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear our cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve
Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us imprisoned. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us imprisoned. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, I reach out to you. Reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, I reach out to you. Reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, I reach out to you. Reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
To that high call.
Did you know that Unitarian Universalists have been coming together for decades to support human rights through the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Guest at Your Table program? During this special program, UUs of all ages learn more about important issues and the groups, or partner organizations, UUSC works together with to advance human rights. Working with community-based groups like UUSC Partners is a great way to get help directly to folks after disasters like a hurricane, and helps make sure the needs that are most important to communities are being met. UUSC works with more than 50 partner organizations around the globe, together responding to humanitarian crises, gender-based violence, persecution of activists, climate change, and more. Guest at Your Table is a chance to get to know our partners and these issues better through learning the stories of 4 people connected to UUSC partners as if we were sharing a meal together. They are the guests in Guest at Your Table. After getting to know the guests, UU spread the word about human rights and raise much needed funds for UUSC partners. From supporting youth leadership trainings to amplifying their voices to world leaders, to buying needed supplies after a natural disaster, our partners request our help with all sorts of projects that make a difference in their communities. Through Guest at Your Table, Unitarian Universalists form a mighty web that helps support UUSC partners in their important work. Thank you for helping keep this important tradition going strong and joining us in the Guest at Your Table program.
Out of the Flames by Reverend Sarah Eileen Lawal. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with the courage of our deepest convictions. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith. We hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all there is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, an open-hearted love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames we rise.
Testing? Oh. Good morning, friends. Welcome to Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Jay Steele, and it's smoky here. My pronouns are he and his, and I'm a member of the board. We are so glad you joined us this morning. I'm going to start out by highlighting some exciting current announcements. November 28th, I think that's Tuesday, there's a TGI Justice Project. You can get more details on the Week on the Peak. Recommended from our Arrow committee. On December 8th, there's a gentle yoga pop-up session right here in Cole Hall on December 8th at 10:30, I think, in the morning. I'm going to try to make that. And on December 9th, there's a Cookies and Carols event right here also, where we're going to be making some cookies and singing some carols with our choir director. Please silence your electronic devices. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, non-doctrinal, non-dogmatic, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are people who are coming at truth from different paths. We gather together across different identities, experiences, and beliefs to affirm and promote the inherent worth of every person. Together we see our job is to love the hate out of this world, heal the hurt in ourselves and one another, and to be the change we'd like to see in the world. If you're a guest for the first time, we welcome you. Here's a bit of information on our hybrid services. We use chat for our Zoom friends up there, or our book near the welcome table right there, to share joys and concerns, personal milestones of importance which will be read aloud in the service. We also have social hour after the service, where we get to visit with one another, and maybe there'll be coffee, and also the Zoom people have breakout rooms, and we'll be on the patio here. The worship host will give you more information about this immediately after the service. Someone from our membership team, that would be Gail over there, hi Gail, will put a link to our newsletter in chat so you can see all the events coming up. And we encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We also put our welcome email, welcome@npuuc.org, to request a newsletter or any other information to be sent to you. If you're in person, our welcome table is right over there with friendly Gail, where you can sign up to receive a newsletter, ask any questions you may have. Finally, please make sure your mobile devices are silenced. Sorry. And we are glad to be here together today. One last thing, my favorite part. Let's end by asking everybody in Zoomlandia and everybody here to wave to one another and feel the joy of being part of one large beloved community. Welcome and thank you to our members and friends near and far. Hello.
Our world is one world, one touch is one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world, the thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate, we make a bridge for all. Our world is one world, its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed take many homes, but where our hearts can lead a different call.
A Story for All Ages. Sophia's Guest by Becky Brooks. This story exemplifies the transformation and liberation possible through the practice of hospitality by finding the divine within and among unexpected guests. Once upon a time, there was a teacher named Sophia. Sophia had been a teacher in the town where she lived for so long that the kids she first had in her class grew up and had kids of their own and sent them to her class too. Nearly everyone in the town knew Sophia and loved her because not only was she an excellent teacher, but she was also very kind. One day when Sophia got to work, she found a note on her desk. The note read, "Important visitor who you might want to meet. Please come in and help yourself to some cookies." The children were giving the mayor some much needed advice when there was a knock at the door. Sophia's heart went pat, pat, pat. Deep breath, open door. It was the entire Woman's Covenant group from church. "Hello, Sophia. We heard the tea kettle and the laughter and thought you might be having a party." Sophia said, "I'm so glad you're here. Come in, come in. I'm expecting a very important visitor who you might want to meet. Please come in and make yourself at home." All afternoon, people stopped by Sophia's house, lured by the yummy smells and happy sounds. The townspeople filled her house upstairs and downstairs and overflowed into the backyard and the front yard. As they got hungry, they made dinner together and ate as the sun set and the moon rose. It was a great party. People were playing games and telling stories and baking and playing music and talking together. Sophia had such a nice time that she completely forgot about her very important guest. Even as she waved goodbye to her friends at the end of the night, she felt only contentment at having such a lovely party. In the morning, though, Sophia woke up and remembered everything. She was confused. Whatever happened to God? All during her walk to work, she tried to figure out what had happened. Along the way, she smiled and waved to the people she ran into who had been at her party. She thought to herself that she really should do that again sometime. When Sophia arrived at work, she was surprised to find another note on her desk. It read, "Dear Sophia, I had such a wonderful time yesterday. The bread was delicious. The cookies were divine. Tea mixed with lemonade is my very favorite. Thank you for being such a wonderful host. I hope we can do it again soon. Love, God." The alarming rise of fascism, authoritarianism, and nationalism in the United States and in many places around the world is putting the lives of people and the sustainability of the planet in critical danger. These far-right forces have co-opted the word freedom for their own purposes. But the concept of liberation and freedom means something very tangible to the UUSC's grassroots partners and communities the world over. Whether they are fighting for the right to seek safety in Mexico and the United States, convincing United Nations International Court of Justice to address the human rights threatened by climate crisis in the South Pacific, or replenishing the energy of human rights activists to Eastern Europe by addressing burnout, UUSC partners invite us into an expansive, regenerative space to pursue liberation. Guest at Your Table is Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's annual intergenerational program to raise support for and awareness about key human rights issues. Since UUSC works in more than 20 countries with over 50 grassroots partners, there are thousands of individuals involved. The work done and the money raised benefits from everything we make possible. The program is an opportunity to celebrate grassroots partnerships, support human rights, and learn about just 4 of these individuals, the guests at Your Table. UUSC believes that the transformational solutions needed comes from communities most directly impacted by injustice. They are asking us to help this year's Guest at Your Table participating programs by learning what such partners are doing to address immediate injustices. They're also asking us to be part of the collective liberation these groups envision for their future. At this extraordinary juncture in history, we think their stories will offer inspiration and guidance on the path toward justice and liberation for all. If you are fortunate enough to have the time and resources to learn about these injustices and make a contribution to rise the quality of life for people experiencing injustice, we invite you today to make a check out to Mission Peak UUC and put GAYT for Guest at Your Table in the memo line. If you are with us online, you can mail your checks to the address on the screen, or you can drop your checks into the mail slot at the office next door to Cole Hall. You can also donate online using your credit card or debit card. Thank you for supporting and sustaining the efforts of our members, friends, and staff. Your contributions make loving, learning, and leadership more possible.
the only song. There is no such beauty as where you belong. Rise up, follow me. I will lead you
First, we'll read the joys and concerns from here in the sanctuary. Finally, Don, one last stone. One last stone for the hopes and hurts still too tender to escape our heart. May, for the sake of love, may we, for the sake of love, keep our doors, our hearts, our minds, and our arms open.
To the people who have mistaken freedom for liberation, by Reverend Julián Jamaica Soto, with thanks to Reverend Leela Sinha. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your existence, without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know, not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kinzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you, an entire universe, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know that you must fight for the entire universe inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
It takes 1 day and 22 hours to ride the train from Chicago, Illinois to Portland, Oregon. Several years ago, I completed that journey, arriving in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning. Naturally, I wanted to go to church, so I looked on the internet for a congregation that would be meeting soon after my arrival. As I made my way there on the light rail, I wondered if I would be welcome, since all the luggage from my trip could communicate to a casual observer that I was not just traveling, but perhaps houseless. I worried that people would be judgmental. Instead, something happened that changed my life. Today, I will invite you to connect with guest at your table partners and choose to act. But you must be clear on what is at stake and choose liberation. In the 2023 Berry Street essay, Reverend Cecilia Kingman describes the 10 tactics of fascism from the work of Jason Stanley, including the targeting of the poor as part of the most vulnerable and as part of creating an enemy, which an authoritarian leader can then target and punish. Can we together create conditions in which we can address poverty and seek freedom in our communities? That Sunday, I drove my mobility scooter up the block toward the entrance of the church. I could see the entrance from the sidewalk. A senior gentleman wearing a green sweater was handing out orders of service and greeting folks as they came in. Then he saw me. The greeter ran toward me to smile and say that I was welcome in worship, that he knew just where I could park my scooter, that there would be a safe place for my suitcases. This, friends, is what it means to have a guest at your table, to open your heart, to marshal your resources, to say yes, 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 to be free to love and share, and together create new possibilities. In the Hebrew scripture, the importance of hosting guests, of embodiments of hospitality, is emphasized over and over. One story of hospitality begins with Abraham, the patriarch of the Jewish people, sitting at the door of his tent, probably trying to catch a cross breeze in the hottest part of the day. And God appeared to him. Unitarian Universalists have many ways to describe their relationships with the divine, with what is larger than themselves, with the building of the beloved community, relationship by relationship, and right action by right action. And we are held together, each and all, by this divine presence, both in large and small ways. Large, like the beautifully luminescent webs that stretch across the cosmos, illustrated to us by the James Webb Space Telescope. Small, like the webs of protein called fibrin found in our blood that sew our blood vessels together when they are damaged. It is from this abundance connected to our place in the universe that we can choose to practice hospitality and generosity. When I speak of God today, you have both the spiritual and intellectual freedom to translate that language into the words that bring you to matters and moments of ultimate importance. What you do with that freedom is the means by which you can heal the world. We might often say that we are in difficult times. Let's focus that question. What times are we in now? Reverend Kingman frames the answer this way. We all know that we are in a moment of grave danger. If anyone is left wondering how bad it is, it's very, very bad. It's alarmingly easy, however, for us to grow acclimated and numb unless we pay rigorous attention to the strategies and timelines used by fascists. We are also seeing a rise in fascist thinking within our own faith community. Not necessarily the political ideologies we associate with fascism, but the style of thinking. What will be our response? It matters for us to use the power of imagination to imagine action that can lead to different and better futures. Jennifer Powell, a librarian, writes that she would like to unteach children that fiction is fake. Her definitions are that nonfiction is learning through information, and fiction is learning through feelings. Thus, the story of Abraham receiving guests at his table doesn't have to be nonfiction to teach us deeply. Abraham was sitting in his tent, and God appeared, in this case as three men. Tradition says that the commandment of hospitality was so important to Abraham that he lifted all the sides of his tent so that he could see potential guests approaching from any direction. In order to fulfill what it means to practice hospitality and reach beyond ourselves, we must be ready to seize the opportunity. Guest at your table is a decades-long tradition by which people of all ages and varied interests connect, learn, and act on important human rights aspects. For some of you, the opportunity to respond to the challenge of climate change by supporting, along with other partners, the work of Pacific Island students fighting climate change will call you to action and the practice of abundance. Much as you will see the story of Abraham, who jumped into action. God may appear to you as the opportunity to be transformed. Abraham looked up and saw three men standing. He ran from his tent to greet them and bowed before them. He said, "Stop for a while with your servant. I'll get some water so you can wash your feet. Rest under this tree. I'll get some food to refresh you on your way, since your travels have brought you across my path." The Unitarian Universalist Service Committee partners with el Fundación para la Justicia y el Estado Democrático de Derecho, FJEDD, the Foundation for Justice and the Democratic Rule of Law in Mexico City, for the express purpose of supporting human rights and democracy, which includes accompanying folks, individuals, communities, families who have been impacted by human rights violations. As people who value the power of personal choice, you can encounter that struggle and determine you will affect it. By your support, you can interrupt it. You can make more freedom for others. Most Unitarian Universalists will not have the opportunity to be hospitable to those folks directly. Not as Abraham was to the visitors, to cook them a meal or offer them rest. You will most likely not march for their rights, but you can offer lifelines of financial support to this work through your giving. The ability of the southernmost neighbor of the United States to maintain the rule of law affects people in the United States directly. The Guest at Your Table program is one way you can make an actual difference. And in creating change, yourself be changed for the better, toward your favorite self. When Abraham offered the three men hospitality, they said, "Certainly, go ahead." God may appear in the opportunity to take action that calls on your skills, gifts, and resources. What in your life is saying yes to you? Who is waiting for you to join their work or waiting to join with yours. Not only are these connections important for building community, they also show how, while we share in the work of human rights together, we can learn new ways in which to rise up and resist fascism. In Italy, one story of resisting fascism came from women who rejected Mussolini's propaganda against pasta. From 1925 until his regime fell in 1945, Mussolini fought the battle for grain. He wanted people to eat rice, which could be grown domestically, unlike pasta, which required imported wheat, mostly from Turkey. By creating an underpaid labor market that included many homemakers, Mussolini exerted control over domestic foodways, or the eating habits and culinary practices of the people. His goal was to limit trade and close the economy, with the intent of stabilizing food production and raising birth rates to produce more fascist fighters for the future. The government passed out rice and pamphlets with recipes and propaganda at rallies. To eat rice was to eat for the regime. Jenny Long writes that to ensure those households in the South broke with regional culinary habits and followed the new nutrition guidelines, the regime suggested that pasta made Italians heavy, brutish, and slow. This caused an outcry. Southern Italian women banded together in defense of pasta and wrote protest letters in adoration of their beloved food of angels. Food of angels, their pasta. In the South, people refused to eat rice. No offense to rice, but they fed it to their dogs rather than submit to Mussolini's plan and discard their beloved traditional pasta. In the North, people did eat rice, but as resistance, they sang songs. You may have heard Bella Ciao, which has enjoyed a resurgence during the time of COVID-19. This was a song that the women reading the rice paddies for intentionally low wages sang as a hymn of defiance to terrible working conditions and to Mussolini's plan. Resistance comes in many forms. Resistance is courage. God may appear reflected in the people you love and the things you care about. Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah. He said, "Hurry, get 3 cups of our best flour, knead it, and make bread." Do you ever feel like the world is too broken for you to affect it? The problems too deep? The corruption too rotten? Sometimes your resistance to the things going wrong in the world needs only to be that you are completely yourself. What about others, including your trans and queer beloveds and their communities? Can they be themselves? This is a crucial question for Unitarian Universalists confronting fascism and for lovers and workers of human rights. The answers are as common and crucial as flour, as doing what you know, as loving who you love, and loving those you may not understand. The United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner makes it plain that gender expression of trans people is part of their human rights, with these words: at the root of the acts of violence and discrimination, including lack of access to gender recognition by the state and violence in healthcare settings, lies the intent to punish based on preconceived notions of what the victim's gender identity should be, with a binary understanding of what constitutes a male and a female, or the masculine and the feminine. These acts are invariably the manifestation of deeply entrenched stigma and prejudice, irrational hatred, and a form of gender-based violence driven by an intention to punish those seen as defying gender norms. Punishing freedom. Your Unitarian Universalist Service Committee has partnered with Queer Svit because since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, more than 62,000 people have died, nearly 60,000 have been injured, and roughly 14 million have been displaced. What follows is that racism, homophobia, and trans antagonism impact which evacuees receive help escaping danger. Two Black non-binary people, a Ukrainian trans woman and a Ukrainian gay man, came together to found Queer Svit. Queer Svit's aim is to assist Black, Indigenous, people of color, and LGBTQ+ people impacted by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Queer Svit provides evacuation, temporary housing, and relocation support, along with legal support and physical and mental health resources. Resistance is justice. The story of Abraham concludes with action and service. You will find him doing what is needed, creating respite, a temporary home of care for the travelers. Then Abraham ran to the cattle pen and picked out a nice plump calf and gave it to the servant, who lost no time getting it ready. Then he got curds and milk, brought them with a calf that had been roasted, set the meal before the men, and stood there under the tree while they ate. The National TPS Alliance does much the same. TPS here stands for Temporary Protected Status, which is an immigration status granted to some people who come from countries where they are unable to return safely due to conditions like armed conflict or environmental disaster or epidemic. The benefits of TPS include protection from being deported or removed from the United States, legal authorization to work, and authorization to travel. These are all things that demonstrate the value of human lives, even in migration. TPS holders contribute to families, communities, and the United States. By offering legal status from abundance for good reasons, the United States, as a host country, receives abundance in return. How do Unitarian Universalist values speak to these priorities? Thomas Aquinas argued that acquisitiveness, or focus on acquiring things, involves withholding good things from others, and thus impoverishing them. Capitalism, in this view, is a zero-sum game. In other words, it is an essential practice for Unitarian Universalists to make meaning from the way that we expect resources to be distributed and from our understanding of who gives support, who receives it, and who deserves it. Rev. Kingman explains that fascist propaganda makes a distinction between friends and enemies. It casts the other as a threat and presents the idea that these others are fundamentally opposed to the nation. In this way, the Trump administration moved to radically scale back the TPS program and cancel TPS for hundreds of thousands of immigrants. The TPS Alliance works to change that by restoring TPS protections and securing a path to permanent residency for all TPS holders. It is humane to resist. Abraham gave his best, prepared a feast, and offered care for the travelers who happened to be divine visitors. Remember that this encounter between God and Abraham ends with one more aspect to consider: joy. That is, you may encounter God in the beauty and delight of being of service and embodying your dearest values, a beautiful feast at a bountiful table. Give to guests at your table because it will bring about the world you long to experience, because human rights are for all humans. Let's close by reflecting on the possibilities offered by Robert F. Kennedy in Prayer for Our Country. Let no one be discouraged by the belief that there is nothing one person can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, misery, ignorance, and violence. Few will have the greatness to bend history, but each of us can work to change a small portion of events. And in the total of all of those acts will be written the history of a generation. It is from numberless diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. Each time people stand up for an ideal, or act to improve the lot of others, or strike out against injustice, they send a tiny ripple of hope, crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring. Those ripples can build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. So may we live. Amen.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle
Please join with me in reciting these words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Each time people stand up for an ideal, or act to improve the lot of others, or strike out against injustice, they send a tiny ripple of hope, crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring. Those ripples can build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. So may we live. Amen.